Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Banten in Indonesia. Banten is located on the island of Java. This very western tip here. This is the border, and it goes out to there. It borders the Java Sea, the Sunda Strait here, which separates Sumatra from Java, and the Indian Ocean. It has a lot of interesting geographic features. One of them, let's just move this way, is the Ujung Kulon National Park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So let me grab my tablet real quick and we'll read all about it. There you go. Ujung Kulon National Park. That's it. This national park, located in the extreme southwestern tip of Java on the Sunda Shelf, includes the Ujung Kulon Peninsula and several offshore islands, and encompasses the natural reserve of Krakatoa. In addition to its natural beauty and geological interest, particularly for the study of inland volcanoes, it contains the largest remaining area of lowland rainforests in the Java Plain. Several species of endangered plants and animals can be found there, the Javan rhinoceros being the most seriously under threat. This is actually the only place you can see the Javan rhinoceros in the wild. You can see some nice wildlife here, and of course the beautiful plants, the gorgeous ocean, alongside thick jungle. And there's a big old lizard guy, a monitor maybe, not a Gila monster. That's all blurry. There you go. I don't know, maybe a Gila monster. Could be. Or I was about to say Komodo dragon, but that's a couple islands away. Gila monsters are smaller than that. Maybe that is a Komodo dragon. I didn't look it up, but I did look up pictures of Javan rhinos for you. Since they're so critically endangered, not a lot of people have seen them before. They are much smaller than African rhinos, and they have just a little bitty horn there. Nothing like the African ones with the big, massive ones you can see in this picture here. They're just little guys. And yeah, this is the only place where they exist in the wild. It did mention Krakatoa. Krakatoa is located up here. It is not in Banten province, but it is part of this national park. So unfortunately, we're not going to talk about Krakatoa today, which is such a bummer. If you don't know, it was one of the, I think it was the loudest sound on Earth before the invention of nuclear weapons. When it blew its top, it completely exploded. It was a volcano. I should say that first. There's lots of other jungly areas here in Banten, but there's also lots of farmland. The coastline is pretty mangrovey, which are saltwater trees that thrive in areas exactly like this. But we also have the complete opposite and have a sprawling urban area. You can see right here is Jakarta, the current capital of Indonesia. They're working on building a new one because it's sprawling out so much that they're running out of space. They're building a new capital city. And it has sprawled out into Banten, into this town here called Tangerang. And from what I understand in history, this used to be just like a small village. And as Jakarta grew and grew, it became a suburb. And that's currently where the international airport for Jakarta is located, outside the city center here in Tangerang. And I think that's it for geography, to be honest. There's a lot of history to go through in this area. So let's get into it. We do know that there is some kind of ancient culture here. We're just not quite sure who they were. There is some pottery, I guess, artifacts that have been found here that date from between 400 BCE to 100 CE. But surely there were people here even before that. Okay, I have to try to get this name. From the 4th to 7th centuries, this area of Java was ruled by the Tarumanagara kingdom. Nailed it. The Tarumanagara kingdom was a Hindu kingdom. And it was sometime around that period that international trade began in this area. Indonesia's nickname for the longest time was the Spice Islands, because many different spices grow and thrive in the islands of Indonesia. And in this area in particular, that spice was pepper. Very important spice. Nowadays, we can't live without it. Before, it was a rare commodity. So they mainly traded with the Chinese, but they were also heavily involved in the entire Indian Ocean trade in general, which is going to become important in a minute. Don't forget that. The Sunda kingdom ruled over this area in particular from 699 to 1579. But there were more powerful empires in Sumatra and Java that also controlled the area technically. From the 7th to the 13th centuries, it would have been the Srivijaya Empire, which was a Buddhist empire. And in the 14th century, it would have been the Majapahit Empire, which was a Hindu empire. The Sunda were kind of a mixed bag. There was a ruling elite in this area in the Majapahit Empire known as the Pajararan. And they were the ones that essentially ruled from the side of the Majapahit. Now, here's where Indian Ocean trade becomes important, because who was involved in the Indian Ocean trade? Of course, there was India. Of course, there was Eastern Africa. But there was the Middle East. There was the Arabian Peninsula and the areas surrounding it, which is where Islam began. So when traders came from this area, they brought their religion with them. And soon Islam was growing and thriving in Indonesia. Very much still is today. But this was one of the areas where it really picked up. And by 1579, the local Muslim rulers overthrew the Pajajaran and essentially the Sunda kingdom. And then they established the Banten Sultanate. And their capital was here in Serang, which is still the capital of Banten today. I should have mentioned that. That's where their base of operations were. And of course, they controlled the pepper trade and became very lucrative from that. Of course, the Portuguese were very invested in this area by that time. They had a war with the Dutch in 1601, and the Dutch chased them out of the area, and the Dutch got their claws into the Spice Islands that we now call Indonesia today. They established the Dutch East India Company to run the spice trade, and that company essentially absorbed this area here. In 1684, they took advantage of a lot of infighting and family troubles in the Sultanate, wormed their way in. The Dutch East India Company was dissolved in 1799, and the Netherlands made Banten a full colony. Well, I don't think Banten in particular, actually. I think it was just the entirety of the Spice Islands was made a colony, I should say. But the Sultanate still continued. They still allowed the Banten Sultanate to function. And that ended in 1813. And, surprise, it was the British that forced the Sultanate to end. Now, why was that? Well, surprise, it was Napoleon's fault. It's weird how one arrogant man just had a butterfly effect on pretty much everywhere in the world. It was because of Napoleon. So Napoleon took over the Netherlands. The British took over a lot of Dutch territory in this area. I mean, Singapore is just up there. Thomas Raffles was running the show over there. And he started running the show over here. And in 1813, while the British had control, they forced the Sultanate to sign away all their powers to the British. Of course, Napoleon wasn't around for much longer, and the Netherlands went back to normal by like 1814. And the British gave them back their land. So now the Dutch just had a full-on, like, nobody to really stop them in this area. They had complete control. And of course, people here weren't very happy about that. There was a large uprising in 1888, and actually a rebellion led by communists in 1926 to try to get the Dutch out. But of course, that all ended abruptly at the start of World War II when Japan invaded in 1942. They took over the islands until surrender in 1945. And the land was given right back to the Dutch once again. And of course, nobody here wanted that, especially after the horrors and tragedy that the Japanese had just put them through. They did not want to be controlled by a colonizer any longer. They declared their independence, fought a long independence war, and eventually Indonesia became a full-functioning independent country in 1950, with Banten being part of it. This region of Banten, since it has a distinct culture, language, etc., wanted to distinguish itself a bit more from the rest of Indonesia, so it was made its own region in the year 2000, with Tangerang being part of it. So that helps break up Jakarta a little bit. And that is the history of Banten. I feel like I went through that a little too fast, but nevertheless, I'm sure you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. Why don't we head over to the tablet and I'll show you a couple things I found while poking around, and maybe we'll find a couple more. Let's head over to the tablet. Here we are in Banten. Let's zoom out a bit so you can see exactly where we are in the world. If you don't know where Indonesia or Java is located, totally fine. Let's learn now. It's totally fine. So here we have Southeast Asia, which we just talked about not too long ago on my channel. We were just over in Cambodia in the last video. But down here in this area of Southeast Asia, the two largest countries are, of course, Indonesia and Malaysia. We got little Singapore there. We've got the Philippines here. Even tinier Brunei is up here. But Java is this long island here. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, which just means a grouping of islands that are all close together. So you can see Sumatra, Borneo, Sulawesi. This is Java, and of course there's many, 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 many more all throughout. But here's Banten. I think we should start with the national park, don't you think? You can see it takes up this whole area here, and then many of the islands out here. Then there's the Krakatoa Islands out here. Ujung Kulon National Park. And it's everything that you could imagine in a tropical park. Huge trees, so much green everywhere, beautiful, beautiful ocean and beaches. And of course, lots of areas with super protection against the endangered plants and animals here. Ooh, there's a skull of something right there. I'm not sure what that was. Lots of boats out there. How lovely is that? This would be a fun place to explore by boat. They're certainly enjoying it. Oh, beautiful sunset. Lots of important signage. That one looks pretty old and all rusty and corroded. Rocky beach here. Oh, that's pretty. Looks like the tide came in really far in this picture. Oh, look at this winding river leading into the mysterious jungle. Wow, there's a rice paddy. That must be nearby. You can't do that in national parks. It looks like some little friends came out here in this camping area. How fun is that? Some little deer creatures. These islands, as you can imagine, are very thickly forested. There's a couple of slideshows here. Here's a resort. Let's see if this can't show us any cool pictures. This guy's going to show us. There's the boats. There's that beautiful water. The breaks right there. It just looks like a very isolated little beach resort, doesn't it? Very nice. So yeah, not a lot of pictures out here in the islands because they are thick with jungle, which is how they should be. You can see this looks like a coral island, doesn't it? The reef there. Let's see. Most of these are very small farming communities. Of course, rice being the principal crop. But you can see lots of resorts and things as well. Let's see what this is. I don't know what this is. Maybe there's no pictures at all. There is. How beautiful. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous. Wow, it's a beautiful waterfall. You get there by motorbike. You can see this gorgeous waterfall. How pretty. Oh, that was happy. I wonder if anyone that speaks Bahasa, let me know if that means waterfall, because I think it does. How about this? This looks like a forest. It's a little play area and camping area. There's bros being dudes. Lots of, what is that, aloe or cacti? Swing up there so you can take some Instagram photos under these cool umbrellas as well. And lots of camping. Oh, that's cute. Lots of hiking. Lots of outdoor things to do here. Isn't that wonderful? Up here, you can see this would have been the natural harbor that the pepper went out of. This did not pop up when I was last looking on here. I don't know who this is. Although that name is familiar, that sounds like a sultan from the Banten Sultanate. I could be wrong, but that sounds very similar to, most likely, to one of the sultans here that the Dutch manipulated into giving up a lot of this place's rights and land and trading properties and all of that. Wow. And that did not pop up last time. What I wanted to show you is over here, but I have to find it. I do have it tagged just in case. Don't find it. But I think it's over here somewhere. I want to show you where the old fort was. Right here, I think. Oh, this was definitely a European fort. You can see the outline there. Let's see. And it's in Portuguese, so this would have been a very old fort. Not the fort I was looking for, but cute baby. Pretty cool. Let me just pull up the text. I'm not wandering around, even though you guys like it when I wander around. Oh, I wasn't too far off. So this was once the royal headquarters of the Banten Sultanate. The Dutch had it destroyed in the 1800s after the Sultanate fell. And you can see there we go, all of the ruins left behind here. Let's look at the slideshow for it. All filled up there with water. And it's a popular place to visit to learn about the history here. There's a museum nearby and lots of sights to see. talking about the history here. Unfortunately, I don't have the best slideshows. That's a wonderful smile. So I'm not going to show you, but very important place. This is the museum. Isn't it gorgeous? Like, wow. Yeah, sadly, most of the pictures are of the outside at the slideshow here, but gorgeous. I see what you would take pictures of the outside because it's a beautiful museum. And you can walk through and see what once was. Sad that it was destroyed completely. All that's left are the old foundations. Why don't we see what we can find over here? So you can see sprawling Jakarta here. Here is Tangerang. You can see the international airports right here. The Soekarno-Hatta International Airport. I think if I just show you this slideshow, because they always show me, you know, what I want to see. So it always shows me water parks because I love swimming. But you guys don't want to look at water parks. We want to look at the city. So this is essentially just a branch of Jakarta. So it is very modern, very bustling. Huge, huge city, big old skyscrapers, pretty much everything you can imagine. Every kind of restaurant, every kind of entertainment. Very modern there. It looks like it's Chinese and like Shanghai or something like that. Here we go. Gorgeous. And of course the population here is largely Muslim, so you'll see lots of mosques as well. Ooh, look at all the motorbikes here. And mopeds and things, because that's how people get around. And this, if I had to show you one thing, I would show you these amazing river walks, but there's a good picture of them here. Gorgeous area to enjoy the water. Love a good river walk. Big highways. Big tall skyscrapers. Big monuments as well. Kind of looks like they're trying to copy the Brandenburg Gate there. But it's neat. Let's see if we can't find something fun to look at. Maybe Koja Cliff Park. Maybe it's not just, oh no, I was about to say, I hope it's not just like a children's play park. This is gorgeous. Why don't we end the video here? Oh, how fun. It's biked all the way up there. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something new today, give this video a thumbs up. And let me know what cool fact you learned down in the comments. You know, I heart all of your comments because I love reading every single comment. And I'd appreciate if you left one. And if you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. This is an ongoing series on my channel. And next we're heading over to the Dominican Republic. Now it's a very small area on a small island, so I don't have a map of this region, so it's going to be tablet only. So if you enjoyed just the tablet stuff, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. Isn't this gorgeous? And I hope that you have a good night. Good night.